I know I haven't done a movie review in a while, but I just wanted to do this quickie since I did just go ahead and see the fourth My Hero Academia movie, You're Next. The last couple of times that My Hero Academia has released a movie, it's been a pretty big hit. And ending the first three movies with My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, I felt that there might not really be any potential for another movie to happen. The story is wrapping up. The last episode of Season 7 just aired today. The manga's been over for a while, and then we'll be getting into Season 8 at some point, I assume, in the next year or so. All of them are canon to the series. They all tie into the anime, to the manga. So they're kind of like bigger episodes, if you will. And this is the first time since I've been a big fan of My Hero that I've been disappointed by one of the movies. I love the first three, and this one just did not hit the same way. So this movie would take place between the time skip of Deku coming back to UA and then right before the final fight with all of the villains and heroes. And the basic plot of this movie is someone is impersonating All Might. They claim that they have the superpowers to take over All Might's title. And now on paper, I thought that was a pretty interesting idea. A clone of All Might, or at least someone claiming to be All Might, who could have a very unique power set, very similar to All Might, a power output that could be the same, and that could be kind of cool seeing how the other heroes and Deku and everyone else would kind of react to this and how they would handle it. But the movie itself is a bit more disappointing than that. Rather than being like a mega fan of All Might or someone that is able to copy All Might, it is this like Italian mobster guy that has used his ability to change his face to All Might and uses alchemy to like turn gold coins into different things and you make them into different attacks. So it's like not really a good clone of what All Might's powers were. The movie itself, I feel, is kind of all over the place. It feels like filler, and I mean that in like a Naruto kind of filler, where, you know, the heroes get beat up when they really shouldn't be. Because at this point in the story, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki are like the strongest that they're going to be, minus the final arc at the end. So it's kind of jarring to see them get their asses handed them by this fucking goober nobody that really shouldn't have that kind of power level as they do. Also disappointing was that the other heroes don't really do anything. Like literally Koda and Shoji, the anima guy and the tentacle guy, they have no lines of dialogue. They say nothing throughout this whole thing. The heroes, for the most part, spend time fighting these random like big gorilla monster looking dudes the whole time, and that's kind of it. The only one pleasant part of the bonus heroes was Mirio, Lemillion. He shows up, which was always nice, but all he kind of does is help like evacuate people that get sucked in. So what happens with this movie is Fake Might, who will be called Dark Might in the movie. Yes, I did cringe a little the first time I saw that. Dark Might has essentially started sucking people in to this like giant castle where he's claiming that, oh, this is where people can live in peace and harmony and all that. And this is where the movie kind of started to lose me a little bit, because I'm like, if you just wanted to pretend to be All Might, then why aren't you out like fighting villains or doing superhero stuff? Like, why do you have to go through this whole thing of like making a giant floating castle that's like engulfing the country of Japan as it's kind of moving across over? Like, it didn't really make sense to me on why the villain would be wanting to do that if he wanted to pretend to be All Might. Like, wouldn't he want to be like doing superhero shit? But that's neither here nor there. Like I mentioned, there's a big lack of emphasis on the other characters, unlike the previous films have had. Like the second movie, Heroes Rising, you know, it's all of them together trying to fight the big bad guy 9 at the end of that movie, and that was like really, really awesome to go ahead and see. With this one, it's like they get scattered all over. They do a little bit here, a little bit there, but of course it ends up being a final big battle between Midoriya, Bakugo, Todoroki, and then Dark Might, if you will. The animation is good, but like the action's kind of lackluster. We don't really get super big moments like we did with the first movie with Deku and All Might doing Detroit Smash together, or Heroes Rising when Midoriya gives Bakugo All for One and then they shoot this giant blast, or even the third one, World Heroes Mission, where like Midoriya does United States of World Smash. You know, those kind of like really fun, little fan servicey, over the top kind of attacks and abilities to be like, wow, that looked really, really cool. And there just really isn't much of that with this particular movie. One thing that I think a lot of people mistake My Hero Academia for is to be like a typical shonen. In fact, My Hero Academia is more so meant to be a critique on like Western comic books like Superman, Batman, all that kind of stuff, and then the shonen series as a whole. And with the other three movies, it was kind of able to change my expectations a little bit, but with this one, I was kind of able to just be like, okay, and this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen. Like, what I mean is, the reason why Dark Might is so powerful in this movie is he's using the ability of this girl named Anna, who her ability is quirk amplification. Now, we've seen this before in the series. This is nothing new. But as soon as I saw her interacting with one of the people that kidnapped her, I'm like, oh, her powers is going to be amplification. And lo and behold, that was it. There's a guy, Julio, that is trying to save her and stop her from being used as a tool because he was her servant before and he cares about her. And he's pretty cool. He's got an Edward Elric thing going on with a robot arm and a leg. It's all cool. But his whole shtick is that his ability was like, oh, I could only use it in my right hand, and my right hand is a robot arm, so I can't use it. So at the end, they defeat Dark Might, and then her quirk, of course, is going to go berserk, and then he's like this giant Nomu Evangelion-looking thing, and it looked all right. It didn't look terrible, but Julio saves her by giving her a hug, and then, oh, look, she used quirk amplification on his quirk, so it nulled it out. And then the movie just kind of ends. There's no, fun fan service or, additional dialogue. I was like, okay, the movie's over. And overall, I just felt it to be a rather underwhelming experience from a series, and from a series of movies, at least, that has constantly been able to, shift my expectations and kind of wow me with what they were going to do. There was a manga that got released to tie in with this particular movie where it hints that Bakugo and Todoroki are going to have to go ahead and work together somehow. And you're like, ooh, what are they going to do? Is Todoroki going to set up ice and Bakugo's going to cause a crazy explosion with it? And their actual working together is pretty underwhelming. They just shoot a bunch of fire everywhere. It's like, oh, okay. It looks cool, but there's no substance to it. And I think that's the best way to go ahead and describe this movie overall. It's just lack of substance. It's not the worst anime movie I've ever seen. I've seen a bunch of anime movies in theaters, some of the Naruto ones or the Bleach ones all the way back in the day. And, most of them were pretty meh. And this one's not the worst thing ever, but when you compare it to the other three movies and how great they were, this one really, really does fall flat. I gotta be honest, I don't think this one is worth spending your money on if you're not a diehard My Hero Academia fan. And if you are, just kind of be aware that this one is gonna dash your expectations quite a little bit. I know that we went ahead and we tend to meme on Naruto and Bleach and Dragon Ball from way back in the day for having really bad filler, especially with filler movies. And unfortunately, this is what Your Next feels like. It feels like a big filler episode of stuff that doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into the narrative of the show. And overall, I'm pretty let down about it. I think what would have been better to kind of fix this is kind of use the fake All Might as a commentary on the bad idealism of relying on a symbol like All Might, like the rest of the show does. I think that could have been interesting. And I think it would have been better to have the entirety of Class 1A work together to beat this fake All Might at his peak, to show that working together they could accomplish anything versus one person kind of being the crutch that is holding society up, which is more so the themes of the show. But I think it would have been cool to go ahead and incorporate that into a bigger movie. Overall, like I said, not the worst anime movie I've ever seen. There is really good animation and some parts that I did really enjoy. But as an overall, it's really not as good as the other three, unfortunately. So if I had to rank them, this one would go all the way down towards the bottom. I know I really don't do a lot of videos like this, but currently working on some other content in the meantime. I just wanted to put my thoughts out there since I just saw the movie today. But hey, thank you guys so very, very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.